Thank you, James. Thank you, music team. And good morning, everyone. For any of you who don't know me, my name is Reverend Phil Smedstad. I have a long history here at Unity Minneapolis, and it's always a delight to be back with you. Reverend Pat Williamson is one of my dearest friends, and his love is something that I see when I look out in the congregation and all of you. I know you are all reflections of that. And I wanted to start my message this morning with something that I've enjoyed over the years. It's called Keeping Cold in Perspective. And I have to admit, it's a little out of date, because it doesn't actually get that cold so much anymore, but you'll get the idea. 65 above zero, Floridians turn on the heat. People in Minnesota plant gardens. 60 above zero, Californians shiver uncontrollably. People in Minnesota sunbathe. 50 above zero, Italian and English cars won't start. People in Minnesota drive with the windows down. 35 above zero, New York landlords finally turn up the heat. People in Minnesota have the last cookout before it actually gets cold. 20 above zero, people in Miami all die. Minnesotans close the windows. 0, Californians all go to Mexico. People in Minnesota get out their winter coats. 10 below zero, Hollywood disintegrates. In Minnesota, the Girl Scouts are selling cookies door to door. 20 below zero, Washington, D.C. runs out of hot air. People in Minnesota let the dogs sleep indoors. 30 below, Santa Claus abandons the North Pole. People in Minnesota get upset because they can't start the snowmobile. 40 below zero, all atomic motion stops. People in Minnesota start saying, "Cold enough for you?" 50 below zero, hell freezes over. In Minnesota, public schools open 2 hours late. The title of my message today is Finding God and Good in Everything. God, or Spirit, isn't only in our life when things seem to be going well. God is present in our challenging times as well. The Dalai Lama once said, "When everything is falling apart, it's so something new can be born." This message is inspired by the story in Genesis about Jacob's ladder, which is found in Genesis 28. Here's what it says. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, he put it under his head and lay down to sleep. Then he had a dream in which he saw a ladder resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. When Jacob awoke in the morning, he said to himself, "Surely God is in this place, and I didn't know it." In Jacob's day, people believed their gods lived where they lived. So when Jacob was in the wilderness, in the desert, he was shocked to realize that God was in the wilderness too. And it seems to me that that's so much like our lives. We're sure that God is present when things are happening that we like. But what about when things don't go as we hoped? So let's look at the metaphysical or inner meaning of this Jacob story this morning. In Unity, we say that metaphysically, Bible history is his story and her story. It is the story of our spiritual growth. In our spiritual evolution, Jacob represents our belief in cleverness. In this stage, who is cleverest is a step up from the stage in which who is physically strongest was dominant, which that stage is represented by Jacob's slightly older brother Esau. Jacob had lived his whole life based on trickery. For example, he fooled his father into giving him Esau's birthright. In the latter story, Jacob is on his way to Haran. The name Haran means elevated, exalted. This represents us moving to a higher state of consciousness, where we look for spiritual, not mental, solutions. So this is us shifting from acting on cleverness to relying on spiritual principles and the Holy Spirit's guidance for success in life. In Jacob's dream, angels are ascending and descending on this ladder to heaven. The word angel means messenger. Angels ascending on this ladder to heaven are our prayers. Angels descending on this ladder are our guidance. In the story, when it says, when Jacob awoke in the morning, metaphysically, that means when the light dawns on us. Then, like Jacob, we say, surely God is in this situation. Surely good is in this problem, and I couldn't see it or didn't know it. Alan Cohen, in one of his newsletters, tells a story about working with a man that he was coaching. The man had been fired from 5 accounting jobs, and he wanted Alan to help him find another accounting job. So Alan said, I asked him the obvious question. Do you actually want an accounting job? And the man said, well, no, really I don't, but I need to make a living. It's how I need to make a living. Alan asked him, what would you rather do? What do you want to do? And he said, well, if I had my choice, I love photography, and that's what I do. Alan thought to himself, now we're getting somewhere. So he created with the man a plan to make a transition, even though if he had to have another job for a while, to transition into a career in photography, which he loved. And of course, he started doing that. He made the transition, and he was doing something finally that he loved. But being fired from accounting jobs was not a bad thing. It was actually a good thing. I've actually known quite a number of people who got fired into their good. Have you ever known someone like that? No matter the problem, it's important that we look for the gifts which life and spirit are offering us through it. When the light dawns on our mind, we too say, surely God is in this experience, and I didn't know it. Surely good is in this experience, and I didn't know it. Dr. Gary Simmons, in his book, The Eye of the Storm, quotes a teacher that he had had many years ago. This teacher said to him, no one is against you. You have no adversary in your life. There is nothing in the universe that is against your purpose. He said, you must leave this room knowing only one thing, that nothing is against you. Nothing opposes you. Any experience you have to the contrary is evidence that your mind is rooted in separation and illusion. He said, if you resist what seems to resist you, you strengthen the hypnotism that keeps you in bondage to your past and makes predictable your future. He said, make your path about proving that no one and nothing is against you, and you will discover what wholeness truly is. And then later in his book, Dr. Simmons says, our soul seeks to move us into those areas of life where our full potential has yet to be discovered. Byron Katie, one of my favorite teachers, said, everything happens for us, not to us. And she said, until we can see everything as our friend, our work here on earth isn't finished. And then there's a woman named Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. They are our co-founders. She was Charles and Myrtle Fillmore's teacher. She was Emily Cady's teacher. Emily Cady wrote Lessons in Truth. And she was the teacher of Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science. One day she was looking at something in her own life that did not seem like a good thing to her. And after ruminating on it for a while, she stood up, put her hands on her hips, and said, this too is good. This too is God. This too is for me. And I insist on seeing the blessing in it. When I was a transitional minister, I've done that in several cities. In one city, a woman came to see me and said that she had had a diagnosis of breast cancer. And she wanted to know what she could do spiritually to support herself in her healing. So I said to her, I would like you to write a list of what you are receiving from having breast cancer. This is just a partial list of what she came back with. She said, I appreciate that this condition gave me the gift of time for inner growth. Probably nothing but a serious illness would have forced or encouraged me to stop and focus on inner work. She said, I stopped involvement in some activities I didn't really like anyway, and I stopped interacting with some people I didn't enjoy being with. She said, this condition gave me the permission to focus on me, and I chose to do that with divine guidance. This condition gave me paid leave from work. My illness gave me an opportunity for lots of self-work, release of old baggage, and anything that was unlike love. It helped me release my children to the Holy Spirit and feel good about that. This illness allowed me to get better at receiving expressions of love. I let other people help me. This illness gave me the opportunity to work one-on-one with Reverend Phil, making a treasure map of my desires and goal, perfect inner and outer health. She said, I actually changed doctors several times during this illness. I found that I had the ability to know when I was in the wrong place and act upon that knowledge. She said, it was not easy for me. I plan to apply that kind of action, she said, based on inner sense everywhere in my life. My wants and efforts helped me create a Reiki training class. I'm now certified in Reiki Level 1, and so are my sister and daughters. I began journaling as a result of my illness. I began journaling at the discovery of my tumor. Journaling is a wonderful addition to my life. I now write in an appreciation journal every day. Being closer to my husband and children due to this experience is something I greatly appreciate. All the expressions of love, all the candid conversations, our need to share our fears and our love, cherishing our time together. And finally, she said, I am experiencing the power of positive prayer. I should add that that was 15 years ago, and to the best of my knowledge, she is still doing just fine and in great health. But what a concept. Isn't that a concept? You know? What am I receiving from what I thought was a terrible thing? What is the gift? What is the blessing in this? My own spiritual evolution has included learning that life doesn't happen to me. It happens through me. This started at my first Unity class right here at Unity Minneapolis in 1972. The minister at the time leading this class shared two concepts, two principles that just went zing in my body and still to this day do. The first one is there's no need for an intermediary. You can go directly to God because God's within you. And the second is thoughts are things. They're a form of energy, and they are constantly creating your experience of life. Then later, I learned from A Course in Miracles a way to take that even deeper when it said, in A Course in Miracles, everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked. This means that everything that happens to me is actually my idea. So no matter what shows up in our life, which means no matter what we create, there is a gift that we want from it. There is a gift in it for us. A Course in Miracles says there's no such thing as an accident, and chance plays no part in God's plan. In the prayer of transformation, a 10-step prayer I wrote, step 3 says, God is constantly creating my life through me, giving me everything that I'm asking for through my most deeply held beliefs and emotions, and I am willing to see and receive the gift I want from every experience I create. No matter what shows up in our life, it's here because there's a gift we want to receive from it. I don't know if any of you remember Richard Bach. I'm certainly talking about my age here now. But way back when, he wrote a book called Illusions. And in it, the reluctant Messiah had a handbook. And one of the lessons in the handbook said, every problem comes to us with a gift in its hands. The sooner we open our mind to that truth, the sooner we can receive the gifts from all of our creations. I came across a story about a woman named Sally who, at the age of 50, got violently ill, had to be taken to the hospital, and while there, with tests being done, it became obvious that her liver was failing and that she needed a liver transplant within a short time if she was going to live. Fortunately, they found one. The liver transplant was done, and things got better. However, a year later, on a routine checkup, the doctor said, this liver is failing too. You're going to need another liver transplant if you want to live. And she said, while she was there in the waiting room, there was a woman sitting next to her, and she said this woman next to her, waiting, talking about liver transplants, this woman was there because she was about to receive her third liver transplant. And she said this woman was the angriest, most judgmental person she ever met in her life. And then she remembered that in Chinese medicine, every organ is associated with a certain emotion. And the liver is associated with anger. And so she said, she asked herself, who am I angry at? And the first thought that occurred to her was, More than anyone else, I am constantly angry at myself. I am constantly looking for what's wrong with me and how am I not doing it right and how am I not doing it good enough. And she committed at that point to every day focusing on self-love and taking 10 minutes a day for an exercise every single day on self-love. A few months later, when she came back to get ready for the second transplant, more tests were done, and the doctor said, "It's a medical miracle. There is no more need for another transplant," because she had received the gift that there was in front of her to receive. Our purpose here on earth is to become the Christ being that we have always been at our core, a full-on expression of divine love, divine power of creation, divine wisdom, and divine aliveness. The Apostle Paul said, all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to God's purpose. And here at Unity, we know that God's purpose is to become Christ beings. So I'm going to invite you today to think about some problem, some issue that you're facing in your life. Can you think of one? And if you can stand, I'm going to ask you to stand with me. Go ahead, if you can. And I'm going to ask you to join me, and let's be Emma Curtis Hopkins. You can even put your hands on your hips if you want to. And you can say, "This too is good," together. This too is good. This too is God.
This too is God.
This too is for me.
This too is for me.
And I insist on seeing the blessing in it.
And I insist on seeing the blessing in it.
Please have a seat. If you'd like to begin 2026 with a self-esteem boost, I'm going to invite you also to join us today for a 2-hour workshop at noon. Low self-esteem was a major issue in my life, and raising it has definitely produced positive results in my life. But whether you can join us for the workshop or whether you can't, have a wonderful week receiving the gifts from all of your creations. Namaste.